Okay, so I'm going to talk about this film in a couple of different ways. I really want to get into, defining what this film was, and specifically what I think is one of the most impactful scenes in the movie. This really sets it all up, right? So if you're not familiar with the scene, I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. We're going to open up with one of the most famous sequences, I think, in movie history. This is when, welcome T Gangsta. We're going to talk about when Jules and Vincent walk into this cheap LA apartment to retrieve this mysterious briefcase and sell a score, right? But under Tarantino's lens, this becomes more than just a crime scene. This is literally a ritual. So you get the visuals. You can see my man Samuel right here, right? And you get the visuals, right? This is the apartment, right? This is him, okay, with the curl, like rocking a curl. This is kind of to date the film because Tarantino likes to be very clever with the time period. He likes to kind of hide the time period or mix elements of time period, something that he's kind of noted for in the sneak in his directing style. And so we get this classic image of Jules Pitt. And this scene, is all about two guys in black suits, three terrified college guys, a burger, a drink, and a version of Ezekiel 25:17 that sounds hard enough to make even like the most Christian of folks like jump up. But this quickly evolves into not actually being about the actual gangsters. It's not about gangsters. It's all about this belief, this performance, and this level of control. Because they're all going through various kind of, I'd say even revelations in their life. So let me tell you a little bit about this film. Again, I'm Generation X, so this film came out in 1994. I was literally in college when this came out, right? This is like my last year. Yeah, this had to be my last year. I graduated in 96. I graduated in 96. This is 94. So I'm literally at film school when this film comes out. And so, I was seeing this in theater. Back then, it was the hottest thing to talk about. We're all like, I'm a film student, so I gotta understand this, and this is the new look. And it really was. So this is 94. This is Quentin Tarantino. This is his sophomore offering into the film world. This is his second film. And this is a crime. This is a dark crime, dark comedy film. And it's really all about, it pretends to be a film about LA lowlives, but it's actually this whole, like, very much deeper myth. And this apartment scene, this becomes this, like, the setting becomes the tools of this weapon, right? The tools of the director here, Tarantino. So in the early 90s, we saw a lot of changes in Hollywood. Like, let's give it some historical context, like how it really spins in. Now, although this film looks like the 80s, it has elements of the 80s written all over it, right? How they dress, how they move. He stays with old school cars. He never gets into really modern cars, right? So that's something where we're not sure. But obviously the film is made mid-90s, so we've kind of rolled out of a different kind of hero stage, right? This is where, Stallone, Van Damme, Schwarzenegger, they were all dominating, and they were all definitively the good guys. That's what the 80s gave us. Rambo, that's the good guy. You don't have to have no questions about it. Like, yeah, he's always fighting against this questionable who's attacking him, but he's always morally good. Schwarzenegger, for the most part, is always morally good. There's no ambiguity. We only see, like, Dutch as, the soldier. We don't see him having, like, they don't have drug addictions. They don't have, like, gambling debt. None of this stuff comes out in those type of stories. But the 90s would be different. And I'm going to tell you, 90s rolled around and blurred the line on heroes, like, right off the bat. So this is the middle of what we're dealing with, right? So we had seen Unforgiven, which is a classic kind of notable cowboy. It's like a noble cowboy flick, right? Oh man, Gene Hackman, Clint Eastwood, Morgan Freeman, brilliantly done film. So it kind of tells a story of not this even broken cowboy. He was a bad person. He was a bad person who became a reasonable or not murderous person who went back full murder in the end. And even like, Gene Hackman's character, something Bill, he's the guy who runs the town, but he's a complete asshole, right? And then we had some things like 91, we had, in 92 we had Reservoir Dogs, where this is his, Tarantino's first film. And he's having an impact because everybody was pretty, they're all criminals. Every single one of them is a criminal. I think except like the one, like, guy who was actually an undercover cop, right? So he suffers the wrath of the nunchucks, not deservedly, and the cop who gets, mutilated, if you've seen that scene. But anyway, like, so this is like everybody's on the line. We're not getting clean heroes, and so we're starting to adjust to that. And you get like Silence of the Lambs around that same time, just prior to this. And again, we're kind of rooting for the cannibal. Like, he's in prison, but the real bad guy is out, and he's helping us catch this guy, even though, like, he's getting his jollies. And then Natural Born Killers, which comes out the same year. We're also seeing, like, different kind of heroes, right? This is Mickey and Mallory, where they were the killers, and we saw Mickey and Mallory as extremely bad, yet we still kind of rooted for them. We glamorized them in a lot of ways. So that's kind of the background, the fugitive, right? The Heat, where it's all about, the criminals. So we're digging criminals about this time. And then this is coinciding with, the explosion of indie films. We're getting Clerks came out. That will launch Kevin Smith's career. El Mariachi, which was shot for like $7,000. Reality Bites. Trainspotting. So we started to get all these strong independent films getting bigger spaces in the market, right? So this is the thing. You don't need to have the stamp of approval. You just need to be able to go out and execute it. So Tarantino really comes out and treats this like this rebel who is like deeply rooted in pop culture. So he is coming at filmmaking in a bit of a different way, right? And we'll see it in his style, because his style is so prevalent and so prominent. Like, this is the big scene. This is how you really would encapsulate this scene right here. It gives you the most. There's like, another guy sitting on the couch who's not Brett, right? I don't know what that guy's name was, but we can kind of see, like, even the positioning of this guy. And this guy, I never saw much out of this actor here, Brett, but man, this guy was a good actor. His ability to show fear was highlighted. So we get these two guys. We get Jules Pitt, and we get, Vincent Vega, right? And so we're already into cool killers, right? Like, we've already kind of fell in love with rooting for the bad guys in some ways. So much that I think we forget that these are the bad guys, right? Like, they're all kind of bad. I don't know what Marvin had going on in there, but nobody's good, right? Like, but think about it. This is what we kind of been bred on at this time. They're nursing us on rooting for the bad guy. I mentioned Hannibal Lecter. Then, of course, there's Tony Montana, who, man, you should not have been rooting for Tony Montana. I just want everybody to know that if you watch Scarface and you're rooting for Tony Montana, you're rooting for the wrong team. I firmly believe that, right? I like the movie too. It's a great movie, well done. You're not supposed to be rooting for Tony. That was the message in that, but you did. So this is kind of where we're at. Then even Leon, the Professional, if you remember this one, early Natalie Portman film, where the hitman becomes this father figure, and we root for him. I was upset. He was going against the cops, and they flip it because great performances, Gary Oldman, but this is it. And then like John Woo's films. So violence, when John Woo starts making violence a little bit more poetic. So when we get to these two guys, by the time we get to Jules and Vincent, like, we're ready to root for the bad guys. So we're not even tripping when they come in, right? So we're already conditioned for this type of view, right? We see it through the bad guy's eyes, right? And then let's think about all the forces that got this movie to be what it is. Because you got a lot. You got Tarantino again. He's like pop culture alchemist. So he takes the trivial things about what we consumed. And again, this is an interesting thing about Tarantino, because we're the same age, right? So we're all, X, right? We're Generation X, right? So our parents were all baby boomers. And you see the bleed over of what boomers don't get it, man. Y'all don't know boomers like we know boomers. But this is a film that starts telling you a little bit about boomers, because this is kind of what we grew up watching, how people move. This was our pops, our uncles, right? It was their homies that were moving like this, with the curls, right? With the like Vincent Vega. That's our pops' generation. So we start to kind of see what we get from the boomers. Like, I'm telling y'all don't even know boomers the way we know boomers, obviously. But we get Tarantino, who's kind of encapsulated all this culture and does a brilliant job putting it on the screen. And then we got, of course, Samuel Jackson, right? And Samuel Jackson, who's really on the rise at this point in his career, and he is the rhythm and the wrath of this movie personified. So he gives the movie its rhythm instantly in this scene. He kind of defines how they're going to move. In this kind of poet, he gives it that poetic take. Then we have John Travolta, who is at one of the renewing arcs of his career. Like John Travolta's had a long career. I just talked about one of the other films he started off in. If you saw my breakdown of Carrie, he's in that. He's got a minor role in that, and that's before he gets the blow up. So he would get a couple of blow ups in his career, and I think this coincides with like his second big crest. I think this really revived him again, and he didn't do anything good with it. He did a bunch of bad movies. And then we add this director of photography, who we never talk about the director of photography. This guy does some good work, right? This is Andres Saluka, right? And he uses natural lighting in a way that we don't really see, right? So this guy, I mean, you probably won't see really good guerrilla lighting like this anymore. I don't think we'll see it. Film stock has changed. He picks a particularly gritty, caliber of a stock of film to shoot it, and his lighting, very deep, you can really see, he really brings out all the detail while still keeping it looking a little dark. That's a skill. And then when you watch this, and I know you guys have probably watched the scene, there's no soundtrack, there's no music, and typically directors use music to get pacing. They don't do that in this. So it's a dynamic swift because he relies on Jules to give it the pace. Jules set the pace and how he talks. So it's not that often we see an actor command that much of a scene in the way that the scene centers around Samuel L. Jackson. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff that we see here as we get into the scene. So he busts in, it's calm. And of course we know that he catches them at breakfast, right? And this is important, right? So there's this intrusion into their lives. And then there is this hamburger, I would call it a commune, all right? This is the hamburger is important, right? It's not just important, and he gets into detail. It's weird that an assassin, a guy who's here to kill you, would be this involved in this many personal questions. What kind of burgers, right? Where'd you get the burgers from, right? He's concerned. So we get into this whole side conversation, which is just a distraction. And we'll talk about what the director's doing later, but he's distracting your brain for a reason here. He's using commonality to lull you into this sense of calm, even though everything around it, like everybody should be panicking. And I don't know if I got a shot of it, but there's a guy that's laying on the couch there, and he's forced to lay down, despite everything about his instinct saying, I should be getting up. No matter what, if there's a threat in the room, I want to be standing on my feet. Samuel Jackson doesn't allow him to do that, and that's a level of like psychological control. So we're really seeing that. And then there would be like the wordplay, and we're gonna get back to a couple things on the wordplay. And if you guys remember the English motherfucker, do you speak it? Is linguistic domination. So again, this is all coming from this character, and we'll talk about the things like how he represents Marcellus Wallace, the sermon that he gives. This is the path of the righteous man, and I'm gonna get into detail about this. And the camera does not flinch away from it, so you feel all this tension between these characters. And this is it. Like, this is a cold-blooded scene here because this is an execution, right? We understand it's an execution, but it's inverted. We're far more comfortable with the idea that you're being executed and you get your last meal. This is why he uses this technique against us, the audience, because it's going to trigger anxiety. Because like, man, these guys are going to die. The last thing you get is your last meal, right? That's just civilization. That's just like, come on, man. Like, right? Come on, buddy. And they don't give you that. So he stands in front, and once he keys on your burger, you know it's over already. If a dude's gonna stand in your face and eat your burger, he has ill intent for you. If you are anywhere in the world, and someone comes up to you and looks you in the eyes and eats your food right in front of you while you have this look on your face, it's a bad business for you. It's not gonna go your way. The dynamic is not in your favor. And that's where he puts him at instantly. So Brett is instantly on guard. All right. And even this like banter back and forth, I can't usually get one because my girl, who cares? Like, you're about to kill me. How his brain's even processing this, I can't understand. But he's got this. He's exuding this calm demeanor before he's about to do anything. Vincent's in the back just rolling a cigarette or a joint, probably a joint with Vincent. And this is kind of where we start to understand who these characters are. This is a modern mythology being told to us. Now, Jules, he singularly represents the angel of death. This is what he is. He casts himself as this priest of vengeance. He is a vengeance angel. Like the way that we would look at Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider is an angel of vengeance. So this is what we're manifesting from Samuel L. Jackson with this Jerry Curl. And ever since then, I've been always scared of people with Jerry Curls. I've always been scared of people with Jerry Curls. So when he quotes what we think is Holy Scripture, and we'll talk about what he actually quotes, this is kind of like he's kind of channeling, this Azazel, this Sekhmet, this Nemesis, because what he's cast at is God's instrument. At this point in the film, and he would have one of the biggest character arcs, because he believes he's doing, just the way that he talks, he feels like he is God's punishment, that he's performing this. Now, Vincent in the back, we will see in a moment, Vincent represents like the doubt. Like obviously he becomes doubt. We see Vincent chill in the back. And this is important because Vincent is detached from all the theatrics. Vincent's not doing this out. This is Vincent Vega. He comes, he checks, he tells them that they're happy. He is not involved in any of the theatrics that are going on. That's not his style at all. Vincent's just, he follows the ritual, but without any faith to it. He's there, he does his part. So he's kind of more of a mythical character, that doubter. And we'll talk about his own death, because it says it was his indifference that ultimately gets him. And we kind of see that in that character too. And then of course, like Brett and all the roommates, these guys are just the sacrifice. They're the lambs, right? There's nothing that's going to save them. They've already been judged. It's your time. And the fact that, there's always been this rumor about Pulp Fiction of what was in the briefcase. And the argument has been made that this is Marcellus Wallace's soul, which changes the whole dynamic of who these guys are. Now, Tarantino himself has never confirmed that, right? But we do see, if you're watching the film, when they open up the briefcase, if I can find, let's see if we can get to that here. I'm gonna come back to this scene too, okay? But you see here, he rolls to 666 to open the case. So again, this is Tarantino playing in mythology's pool, right? That's kind of what he's doing. But let's go back, because I did want to mention like what we see here, which is insane. Like I talked about him not only eating your burger, right? So I eat your burger. Okay, so there's a couple of things. Okay, there's the check out the big brain on Brad, right? Which is kind of a liminal moment. In the middle of this, we're getting ready to murder you. He stops and asks him a question. Their conversation, the Royale with cheese. And Brett replies correctly that it's because of the metric system, that they don't understand what a quarter pounder with cheese would even mean. And so it's funny. So it becomes a little bit of levity in this. Check out the big brain on Brett. I think it's Brad, actually. The caption's got it wrong. So he says, bring, the big brain on Brad. And, giving him props. Why I know what's going to happen to you, right? And then this is where I feel like mood-wise, it becomes really, really insidious, okay? Okay. He takes his soda, and I'm telling you, this is a long scene. You gotta watch this part here, because somebody stares you in the eye while drinking every bit of your soda. When you say, can I have a little bit of your soda to wash this down, we would think that, okay, it's gonna be a little bit of soda, right? I'm gonna have some soda left. No. And Brad hadn't even started eating his burger yet, so it seems to me that they had just sat down there, so that was probably a full soda. He intends some Sprite to wash this down, right? Right? Like, it's so insidious. Now, directorially and lighting wise, brilliant. They don't move. They hold your focus here. That's all for a reason, especially when you have an actor like Samuel L. Jackson. So we can see when he's like, he's drunk this guy's soda while making eye contact with him the entire time, and then drops this classic. That hits a spot, right? So I'm letting you know, you're not gonna need this soda, right? That's what I'm telling you right now. No matter what happens, you don't even need to worry about the soda, because you won't be drinking anything in a couple of minutes. You'll be taking a whole different type of beverage to the head later, right? A bullet beverage. So then what we're seeing play out here is absolutely psychological warfare on the screen. It's a total domination. Now, we see Samuel L. Jackson is attacking the guys there, right? The director is attacking us because he uses a lot of like techniques so seamlessly that we almost don't notice what Tarantino's doing. And this is kind of what makes him, a next level director, to be really honest. Now, I feel like, to be honest, I feel like he's significantly dropped off since this. I don't feel like he ever did anything directorially that was even in the realm of this. Remember, he's telling the story in vignettes completely out of sequence. But somehow we're able to link to the characters and follow this all the way through. Now, I had mentioned at this time I was in film school when this film came out. So, of course, everybody tried to do this. And it's terrible if you can't really master it. If you can't get those key tie-ins, nobody will know what the hell you're talking about. So it was a big risk in only his second film to tell it this way, but he does a masterful job. And you don't see a lot of this. Like, I don't know what I was watching. I was watching like Teen Titans. Yeah, I was watching the Titans, not Teen Titans. I was watching the Titans show. And they do a lot of that back and forth and flashes where a whole episode is literally just a flashback. And I'm like, I didn't even know what was going on. I had to go back and watch several episodes over again, okay? And it's not because Starfire was hot. I needed to understand it. But so with Tarantino, you get next level directing, and he was able to do that. He goes away from a lot of things. So the first thing is Samuel Jackson's voice becomes music again. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger. Right? Those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee. That's brilliant. That is utter acting royalty. I got this passage memorized, Ezekiel 25:17. And we're going to talk more about Ezekiel 25:17 as well, right? Because it's so impactful. I'm telling you, I'm going to tell you right now. Okay, let's do this. Okay, let's do this. Give me a little sippy sip here real quick, okay? All right. I got this passage memorized. Ezekiel 25:17. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who in the name of goodness shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness, for he is his father's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee. Now, why do I know that? There's so much stuff in my life that I've completely forgotten. There's stuff I did yesterday that I don't even remember. There's whole chunks of my childhood. I'm like, I don't remember that, right? But I remember that because that's how powerful it was. And in my friend group, I'm not the only one. We used to have competitions about how we knew better. And I probably didn't get it exactly right. But man, my brain's been through a lot of trauma over all these years. But that's how impactful that line was that I even remember. Furious anger. I remember how he conveyed it. And he does that line twice in the movie in very different fashions. From this scene here to towards the end scene at the diner, it's completely different way that he delivers that. What? Live restricted from some audience. Oh, themes. Okay, well, I am talking about murder. I don't know what that means, but I got a warning right now from TikTok. I don't know. What am I talking about? Like, what the heck are you guys talking about? Okay, well, I don't know what it could be. But anyway. That's some audience. I guess we're just dealing with adults here. So this is, so we use Samuel L. Jackson's, charisma. Like, that's what he's laying down. Jules Pitt is cool. Jules Pitt got flow. Jules Pitt can speak, right? So we're using all that and him to carry the pacing of the scene in times we'd ordinarily use music, right? So there's that seduction. And then that background silence becomes a weapon, right? There's no other sounds. It's like it's auditory deprivation. So you're forced to listen to everything. So it makes the gunshots, when they come, even more powerful. The static camera is all about control. There's wide shots. There's not a lot of cuts. the steel frame is the dominance. It forces everyone to understand that we're all trapped in this. There's no way we're getting out of this, right? There's layers of comic deflection, which psychologically puts your brain at weird spaces. We're laughing at Samuel Jackson, but we know all this is under the banter of, we're about to kill these guys. There is no escape. I drank your whole soda. I already drank your soda, so there's no future for you after I've drank your whole soda. There is this repetition of language, right, from Jules. It becomes like the rhythm of his pace becomes actually hypnotic. And he turns this script into a scripture. So you hear it so often, it feels divine. In this moment, the way that he does it, it feels divine. And then there's the actual execution at this part. And we see the setup for it. This is Brett negotiating for a song. This is Flock of Seagulls, as he gets called, who can't even get up, right? So imagine it's all going down, and you got to lay here and act like you're calm. So it's a terrifying scene, right? This is what we're seeing. Him, making him sit down. That's all. He doesn't even allow Brett to stand up, to negotiate with him like a man, right? And then to shoot your friend right in front of you, and I'm sorry, did I break your concentration? This is a level of psychological manipulation and calm that is on a whole nother level. We don't really see a lot of that. How he controls the pacing of all that, right? And it's not even done. They don't just come in and kill you. You got to get a lecture the entire time. The entire time he's dominating you. What's the matter? Were you finished? So even the way that he talks, allow me to retort, which is hilarious given the context. And then this is kind of the height where he's really, really taking it to him, right? The whole, what does Marcellus Wallace look like? And that launches, of course, into all of this, very powerful stuff about you taking a look at Marcellus Wallace, right? We want you to see or describe it. And what country you're from, right? So this is all very powerful in how they leverage it. And again, the level of disrespect gets greater and greater. I control how you talk. I'm eating your food. I'm drinking your drink. I'm controlling how you talk. And then there's this. One more goddamn time. And he ends up putting, does he look at all the animation in this guy's face. Does he look like a bitch? So we're really understanding how he's controlling this through the narrative. And how he's there is this idea that when we look at Brad, it's hard to visualize him as a criminal. So again, it's playing on us that, wow, this guy looks like, it looks pretty soft, but he's this big threat, and you guys are the big guys who are gonna, come and handle this guy, right? So it is what it is, right? So finally, we get to this point. This is the classic line, right? I got this line memorized for occasions like this. So you specifically took something that you believe is a scripture and memorized it for the moment that you will kill someone for this occasion. Ezekiel 25:17. And there's been no more famous line in one of these indie films than this. And it really launched it off. The path of the righteous man. Let's see how accurate it was. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the inequities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who in the name of charity and goodwill shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness. For he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. So you can see he is in full preacher mode. This is ritual for him. This is his sermon. And he feels righteous in delivering it, particularly in this fashion, right? With great vengeance and furious anger. And so this is all him saying in his defense of Marcellus. Again, if he is someone who is reclaiming Marcellus's soul, then the dynamic of this, this really hits completely different, because it is that biblical, that scripture that, he's kind of playing as. So we'll see. But this is the important part. Of course, they put him down. Brad is done. Brad is done. And it's the fashion in which that they do this. So this is the climax that we were building to the entire time. So he wraps this thing up in a very neat bow. And if you watch the film, there's an extension of that, which is classic to his style, which is another viewpoint just ahead and, going back in time and then catching up, which is beautifully done. But this to me really puts the bow on this entire scene. So what we've seen is a level of manipulation and gangsterism from Jules and Vincent. Their dynamic of one being the lead and one being the detached, quiet one, while the other delivers the sermon. So they're both part of this ritual, playing their roles, and you see which one quickly is the voice of all this, and he gives it that pace, while Vincent's detachment kind of sits well with, you know, a lot of the rest of us. So this is kind of where we end up with this statement. Now, when we go back to the actual quote that he does, right? This is one of the most interesting things about it. That line is not in the Bible at all. That is literally a false scripture, right? The whole Ezekiel 25:17, the way he delivers it, it's not even what was written. The one real verse of this is one line, and it says, "I will execute great vengeance upon them with furious rebukes." That is it. The righteous man, the shepherd, the tyranny of evil man, that's all writing from Tarantino. It's brilliant. It was written to sound like it's holy, and he does an incredible job of actually getting that. So Jules believes he's quoting God. He believes he's performing fan fiction of God. So this entire event is both tragedy and the beauty is that's his art, that what it is. And I talked about this when I talked about with Abigail, the little vampire. Like, so it's similar to the ballet massacre scene where they mix beauty and precision and divinity with just absolute brutality and bloodbath. So we get the same thing here. So this is kind of how he's moving us all the way through it, but understand that even the central portion of this was also fabricated. So this is completely Tarantino manufacturing every single bit of this energy through the script, through the writing, through the dialogue, and executed at an extremely high level by extremely talented actors, particularly Sam L. Jackson here. And this is how we create a modern myth. This is how we have a generational effect, because so many of us from my generation can run around quoting that like almost verbatim, because that's how many times we watched that scene. We know it better than rap lyrics, right? So because it felt like it was divinity, it felt powerful while we were saying it, and that's what we get. So we do even have an influence on religions, because a lot of people who weren't really religious would have thought that was actually scripture. So anyway, that's my wrap up on this incredible, film noir from Tarantino. I think there's so much biblical reference here that we thought was biblical that's not biblical, but we are building a myth. We're seeing a new archetype, we're seeing new characters, or old archetypes being represented by different characters, I should say, more accurately. So if you want more on this, I'm going to cut this into pieces. Always, I ask that you go like the channel, subscribe, where I do breakdowns like this all the time. And if you enjoy longer versions, hit up my YouTube channel where you get more long, full-term videos. Thanks again for stopping in. As always, appreciate you and look forward to catching you next time. Drop some hints. If you guys have a film, a book, something you want me to break down, throw it in the comment sections and I'll handle that for you.